Hello, dear friends. Welcome to this podcast today about knitting, yarn, and a little bit of spinning. That's why my wheel is there. I am Doc, and I'm coming to you from Albuquerque in New Mexico. And I wanted to thank everybody for stopping by, all the paper people who may occasionally stumble upon a yarny video. And I want to thank also the knitting people out there for letting me inspire you with my love for pen, ink, and paper. Today, like I said, I want to talk about back to the yarn content, and I wanted to start with the shawl that I showed you last time in the last knitting episode that I recently finished, and I blocked it and it turned out beautiful and pretty substantially long. And we're talking about the Hope and Feathers by Mary Annarella with this gorgeous slip stitch pattern. I used 3.5 millimeter needles, and the yarn is Shawls Bubbly Lemonade, I think, or maybe I'm telling it wrong this time. I don't know why I can't remember the name of this beautiful yellow, but the blue-green tealish color, that is Desert Vibes. And I love how it turned out after blocking, and I thought I did want to show you one more time. Especially also because I thought some people out there struggle with how do you wear something this big, and even worse when it's asymmetrical and has this super long end here. And I have to say, I'm not super picky about these things, but with an asymmetrical shawl like this, I grab the shorter end and put it around my neck, so that that corner is kind of pretty much in the front, and then I wrap it one more time, and usually, because I want it in the back, this long end, I come again under that triangle in the front and throw it in the back. Yeah. And this is the Hope and Feathers by Mary Annarella, which is a really great pattern. And it was a fun knit, even though I told you I was in between really bored and I really wanted to cast on a new project, which was not necessarily the fault of the pattern. I wanted something new, and I surrendered myself to this craving for new projects, as you will see in a minute. Let me take this off because the weather has turned to warmer temperatures finally, after we had a week of snow and rain and really a bit of a crazy, untypical weather for us here in New Mexico, but nobody complains, let me tell you that. The desert needs everything it gets in terms of moisture, be it rain, be it snow, we take it all. So that was a long week of all of that. Yeah, what next? I am bringing you the Linya shawl again, which I am super excited about because I just love this yarn so very much, which is Shawls Honeysuckle, a soft blend of merino cashmere and silk, and the silk gives it a super pretty, lovely sheen, and the softness anyways. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous design, and beautiful how the yarn knits up for this. I continued knitting on this a little bit about 3 inches. I put my marker here after the last episode. And don't worry, I will not abandon this because I love it way too much. This is my first ball of the yarn, and I have one more, and I'm just gonna keep going. I don't know how far I'm gonna get with that, but I would assume that with this pattern, you can just keep going until you run out of yarn. Again, 3.5 millimeter needles, my favorite needle for this kind of knit where I use a fingering yarn. Yeah, not much else to tell you about this except for, the pattern is, I think it took me a little bit of time to adjust to it, and I really mark every row in the pattern, which is a long pattern, many pages of a written pattern, but that's okay. I don't care. It's worth it. Yeah. And it's not complicated, but just that you have to follow the pattern on the pages or whatever you use, Knit Companion. Yeah, that was the Linya, and then 2 more. One of them being the restart of the Take It All shawl. And I took a project picture that is on the page, on the pattern page, because there's in the pattern itself, there's no picture because it was a mystery knit along. And the pattern is by Lisa Hannes. Hannes, called Take It All. And I showed you last time my failed first start, and I showed you also what I wanted to use as a replacement the next time because my colors were too alike. Yet again, my colors were quite alike, but still distinctly different enough to satisfy me. And I'm talking about this stripy beginning where I used these 2 colors. This one is one that I have dyed, and this one is, let me see, I think it's Tree in Autumn by Zen Yarn. There's a lot going on here in regards to knitting, so I'm getting, pardon me if I get confused sometimes with all of these yarns. Also, I'm sorry, I forgot to show you this color. In fact, this is one by Madeline Tosh, and the color is gorgeous. And it complements this absolutely wonderfully, as you can see. And then I also had a little gradient set of these guys that I had found at the yarn store in Taos, and that's by Wonderland Yarns. I've had this in my stash for quite some time, so I was really very happy to finally find the perfect project because the base is the same as my Sugarloaf, Shawl's Sugarloaf. In case you're new, I'm the dyer of Shawl's yarns, and so Sugarloaf is one of my favorite bases that I dye up. And I just love this. It's a light fingering, great yardage, 540 yards, and I recognized this set of gradients as being the same base. Yeah, so I was really looking forward to figuring out what I want to make with that, and finally the right project came along. So, and this is where I am. Let me show you. Really, really like how it's turning out. Yeah, I can't wait to start that section, that asymmetrical section in the end, which must be created with short rows, and which then that's good. When I'm there, that means that I'm close to the end. So let's see when that happens. I have 2 more lacy sections, I believe, like this. So I'm on the first one, and then there's a block of something in between. Yeah, thin, probably like this. And then I'm gonna have another kind of like a mesh pattern. And then that final section begins. And I do want to let you know that I'm not super, I haven't really planned ahead in terms of the colors that much. So I don't know how I'm gonna knit that last section. Don't know. I will decide when I get there. And also because, of course, I have used this. This came from the gradient set, and this was that Madeleine Touch. So I combined these two in this stripy section. I'm showing you the wrong side in this section. So this was, so I had 1, 2, 3 of the blue colors. Now I'm using the 4th one of that, of the solid colors. The 5th one is here. So that's all of my colors from that gradient set. And now I will just kind of randomly pick one of the other colors for that last mesh section before the, let's call it the short row section in the end. Yeah, I'm enjoying this, and I think it's going to be a great shawl, another great shawl. I had a German friend ask me the other day, how many shawls do you make? How many do you have? I said, well, it doesn't really matter to me. Shawls, you can always wear them, mix them up, go by the mood of the day. And if you have too many, you give them to friends. Easy enough. Yeah, so this is the Take It All by Lisa Hannes. But then there was another one that I really wanted to make. I had it on my radar for quite some time, and that is, quite some time means for about 3-4 months, because around the time of Christmas and Advent, where there were all these mini skeins floating around, I was kind of paying attention to patterns that you can utilize mini skeins for. And shawls, yeah, why not, right? To shawls. And so one of the ones that I found was this Colorbook shawl. Very interesting, in my opinion. Very different design, very different construction. And I was thinking, what can I use? How can I make this? What do I want? I really wanted to, I did not, let's put it that way. I recently wanted to make the Neuter wrap. So I showed it on the podcast if you've been here a few weeks ago, months. I ended up not deciding against it because I felt like the construction was a little bit more than I wanted to handle at that point with connecting different sections and so forth. But I had already assembled a nice variety of colors that I thought would work well together. So I went back to those and dug in there, and essentially I went by, let me see if I find a better picture for you. Not really much. So at the end, at the two ends, you have a triangle. And I thought, okay, what is a color that I would love to have kind of like a little more visible in the ends, because the ends hang down. So I thought, that would be cool, having that with a bright lime green. And that's what I did. So that's how I started it. But by now I'm a little bit confused. So I don't know if it's going to be this way or this way. But I would think that this is the top. I don't know, but this is where I am. In the pattern, these colors are the same. But I don't know, I just went by my mood. And I thought this color is too pretty not to give it a little bit more, sorry, that was loud, not to give it a little bit more room to shine. In this section, you use this color and this one, and altogether 4 colors. And I love the combination of green and turquoise next to each other. So that was the next color. Then another bold color, I picked pink because it's an obnoxious shawl, bright colors. So I thought, bam, let's do this. Lime green, turquoise, bright pink, and then let's mellow it down with a nice contrast, and which adds a lot of visual interest, in my opinion, when you have something that's maybe not really expected, but a little bit like, really? She put a brown in there? Yes, she did, because it adds that certain element of visual interest. And in the brown, you have these specks of the bright, strong pink, which connects it to the pink stripe next to it. So this section, you work with short rows. Here, again, you just alternate the colors. And from what I've read in the pattern, there will be an I-cord edge where you work in all the yarns that you just carry along on the side, which I like, thank God. I wouldn't want to weave all of those in. I had this with my minis. I believe it was one of mine, Sandia. And this, I wish I knew what it was. Isn't it gorgeous? Zero clue. I don't know if it came to me as a leftover or I have no memory. I just really don't know. But it's pretty. Mine, unknown. Then I have this, which I purchased in Taos, and I will get the tag for you. And the pink is one of an advent calendar that my friend Sabrina here, who is local to me, gifted me a few years ago, which made me super happy that I can use a few of the colors from that advent calendar here and now. So I think this is also one. And I have a few more, but I don't think, I don't know if this is one, but I don't think so. I have a few more. I just pulled out a few mini skeins, a few leftovers, and I thought, let's just see what happens. Fun, right? So I'm gonna get you the tag, but before I go, I wanted to tell you that this is, yet again, I'm working with 3.5 millimeter needles. Hold on. Desert Panda Fiber Arts, and I purchased the yarn at the Taos Wool Festival in 2021, and that was sadly the last time that the Taos Wool Fest was the Taos Wool Fest, because it moved last year to Santa Fe. Super sad, but that is this yarn here. Yeah, I believe that there is one section I can show you. Whoops. I am a little bit confused. Oh no, yeah, of course. I think in this picture I'm coming with my knitting from here. So this is my brown section, and then I have the stripes, and now I'm doing the stripes at an angle, and then I have a solid section, where she did the pink, and I have pulled out, I shouldn't say I have pulled it out for this, because I had pulled it out for the Nutra wrap that I decided against at the time. But it was this one, which I thought would go so well with this. And this yarn is Atomic Fiber Company. I got that on Etsy. Cute note. That was 2017, people. It's been a while. So that would be really fun to knit up with those additional purple blips. And that, I think that gave me the idea of also using maybe other minis with more shades of purple to combine when I run out of the pink and the turquoise. We'll see. This is a fun one. This really is a fun one. And as if three shawls and one just finished weren't enough, I found another pattern, because I was at midnight the other day, and we were talking about Kiviot yarns, and I said, man, I still haven't knitted up my Kiviot that I purchased in Alaska a few years ago. It was so expensive. I kind of regret buying it, and I have only these two tiny balls, and they cost me a fortune. Yes, they did. And then my friend Lauren said, oh, hey, I can knit that up for you. No problem. You just tell me. I'll happily knit with your Kiviot. And that made me think, hey, wait a minute. No, of course I need to knit that up. But what can I make with it? And so I spent a few hours one night on Ravelry, and that's when I actually purchased the Colorbook Holiday Shawl pattern to get that going. But I also purchased this pattern, which I think is, I'm not quite sure, I think it's probably pronounced Eta. And that is I don't know if it's a French designer. Could be. Who designed this? It does not. Oh, maybe it's kind of like a name for the designer. It's called an Irish Knit Odyssey. So it's not a French designer. Yeah. In Celtic mythology, Etain outshone all other women in beauty and gentleness. Consequently, she became a victim of both desire and jealousy. When the fairy king Meiju fell in love with her, his wife Fuamnak transformed Etain into a pool of water and later into a scarlet fly to be blown over the ocean for 7 years. When she was finally able to return to Ireland, she fell into a glass of wine which was drunk by a woman who longed for a child. Etain was reborn, and she later married a high king of Ireland. Eventually, Meiju found her again, and they transformed into swans and flew away. I should ask my friend Therese. She would be able to tell me how this is pronounced correctly. But it's really a tiny shawl, so I'm hoping that I have enough yarn. One of these guys, Windy Valley Musk Ox, Alaska. It's 50% Kiviot and 50 mulberry silk. 28.5 grams, and this has about 218 yards. So 440, yeah. And just for your inspiration, I brought one more shawl pattern. Are you sick of them? No, I'm not either. Bring it on, right? This one is called Outline, and it's by the wonderful lady who does, oh gosh, why can't, Beata, yes. I want to say that name, German always, Beata. But Beata of Hedgehog Fibers, she published this great shawl, such a cool pattern. And I am so looking forward to making this. Everything I showed you are paid for patterns. However, this one is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I think it would be a super fun one to use with leftovers or to mix up those skeins that you've always wanted to knit up. And yeah, it will be happening. Yes, and I thought, well, you're working on all of these shawls, but you also want a garment. I looked through, so my Ravelry is in that regard well organized. I have favorites. If you have a nice project that is well done in color choice in pictures, I see it, I may favorite it, and I say, oh, this is gorgeous. That's my folder in the favorites. Then I have a favorites folder, which is called Maybe Q. So any pattern where I think, I like it, but I'm not sure if I would really knit that goes in that folder. But then I have everything that I really want to make goes into my Q, which has by now, oh my God, I don't even want to say the number. It's close to 1,000 patterns. It's fine. Doesn't matter. It's also inspiration, because it doesn't mean that in the end I'm striving to knit 1,000 patterns. No, but I love to flip through them, and they are well organized into sweaters, cardigans, baby stuff, crochet stuff, shawls, excuse me, and maybe more. Toys, yeah. So I went through the sweaters, nothing. I went through the cardigans, nothing. I went back and forth and went through them again, and I thought about, how do you decide on a pattern? And you are kind of, especially when you're kind of bored with everything, it's everything. I mean, I like them because I like looking at them and flipping through them. And I also always look at what my friends are making or favoriting or putting in their queue. But sometimes you just want to find the right thing. And so I went back and forth, and I finally, all of a sudden, it hit me. It's not that I necessarily find that right thing that is complementing my wardrobe, or that's so different from everything else that I've knitted, or where I say, hey, I've got exactly the right yarn, or I want that in a green color or whatever. It was more like I went through and I thought, man, I really, really want this cardigan, and especially because I can see myself in it, and because I think that it fits my style very, very well. And that's when I purchased the pattern that I'm going to show you now, even though I do not have the yarn yet to make it. And it's called the Lethal. Isn't it a beauty? It is. It just has this eye-catching element on the back. Let me see if there's more pictures. No, wait a minute, maybe here. Yeah, it's interesting from the front, and it doesn't have any buttons, but I think it's fine because that's how I wear. I rarely close my cardigans. But the back end is loose fit. I thought that's really cool. And also another element that I really like, I thought it's going to be interesting to go from a different angle. Yeah, knit a different style, you know, kind of like a different construction. That's what I mean to say, construction. So then I thought, oh, what do I use? I don't have any yarn where I thought, oh, that's gonna work well. Nothing in my stash because I wanted something a little bit fuzzy. So then I remembered I had carded a lot of fibers, and I thought, why don't I spin them for this cardigan? So I went to my spinning fibers and I pulled out all my 3 boxes of spinning fibers. Hold on one sec. My husband just got home and I had to tell him to shushy. So I pulled out the spinning fibers. I didn't bring any of those bats, but I did bring you the little sample that I spun and already knitted up. I showed you before, but I think it's really, really pretty. My problem will be that I'm not at gauge at all. This is made with 4mm needles, and she recommends to use 4.5mm needles, and by far would I not get there with this sample. And this is how I would like to spin this yarn. So for now, I thought, well, I'm just going to put this aside as a spinning project, and I'm going to just warm up with my spinning skills, and then maybe I give it another try and spin it a little bit thicker after all, or I dig into my other spinning fibers. 5 pins. I am not running out of spinning fibers. So, and there's some that I have a lot of. So that it will be a project in the future. So 2 that you see that are still only in my head. But with my spinning, my warm-up spinning, I finished this and I am very much in love with it. Let me show you. Ah, I love these turquoise elements and the bluish gray. Yeah. I do not think that you can still purchase hobbledehoy fibers, sadly. I mean, this shows me she is such an incredibly talented dyer. But I think she retired a few years ago and took her career a different direction. This has 109 grams and great yardage of 565 yards. I did my math so I could tell you. Yeah. Love it. No plans yet. And then I thought, well, gotta spin some more. Why is this? What did I do here? Look at that. Don't know where that comes from. I don't know if I didn't catch it. With my little tag here. What happened? I gotta figure that out later. Okay. So then I went back to my fine fibers bin, so stuff fibers with silk, and I chose to spin up this. This was an off amount that I dyed a few years ago. I remember how excited I was about this combination of the gray and the peach and that berry color. And I am, so the whole braid, I don't even know how much it is, but I split it in the middle. And then I split the braid several times lengthwise. And now I am on that last bit of fibers. I'm excited. Yeah, and then second half, and that's probably going to be a similar lightweight than the other one. Yeah, and that's it from me for today. I told you all my crazy plans and my crazy new projects, and I hope you've enjoyed it and maybe you found something or you saw something that could excite you too and makes you cast on. So we'll catch up again in a few weeks, and until I see you again, I wish you happy knitting. Bye.